Hello, everybody, and welcome to our weekly 30-minute workshop. My name is Dre Devotz, a systems engineer here at Variphy. I'm going to be your host for today's workshop. Today, we're joined by my good friend, Mike Stratton, another systems engineer here over at Variphy. How you doing, Mike?
Good, Dre. How are you?
Doing fantastic, sir. For today's workshop, we're going to be showing you some Webex calling dashboards and widgets. We're going to start off with a quick overview of our company and what we do. We'll jump into a live demo where Mike's going to show us some Webex calling dashboards and widgets. We'll pause for Q&A and get some of your questions answered during the demo. If you have any questions, make sure to ask them in the Q&A panel on the bottom right hand of the screen. After Q&A, we're going to reward one lucky attendee a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang around and see if you won. Variphy is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration, providing industry-leading customizable call manager, UCCX, Cube, and now Zoom reporting analytics and dashboards, along with a suite of tools like remote phone control, change management, and DID management. But for today, we're going to be focusing on those WebEx calling dashboards and widgets. If you have any other questions on any of our features, or if you're interested in taking our Zoom Analytics for a free spin, hit me up in the chat or the Q&A panel on the bottom right side, or reach out to your account manager for more info. One more thing before we kick things off, Variphy does offer a managed consulting service where Variphy's SE team engages with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, unassisted reporting, dashboarding, configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you a dedicated Variphy SE to do all the heavy lifting while giving you a completely hands-off experience. For more information, please contact us and we'll be glad to speak more in depth about our Ninja Enhanced services. All right, let's get into the demo here. Mike, I'm gonna stop sharing and get you the ball here.
I think I can already take it. I don't think you have to.
Yeah, I think you got it now.
Let me share the correct monitor. There we go. We're on screen two. Move Webex out of the way. And all right, let's get going. So today I'm going to show everyone how to build a dashboard, kind of cover building a dashboard using the upcoming Webex calling widgets. These widgets will be included in our upcoming 15.1 release. They're not available just yet today. They should be available. Well, they will be available in 15.1, which should be out, I believe, next week. Is what I keep hearing. So by the end of the month, so it should be next week. So if you're currently using Variphy for Cube or CCM or Zoom reporting, then these widgets should look very familiar. They're the same 6 widgets that are available for all the other platforms. They'll be also available for Webex Calling. So if you're migrating from like Call Manager to Webex Calling, you'll have the same 6 widgets available for you. So clockwise, going from the top here in the corner, we have the call distribution widget. Next is the utilization concurrent call activity widget. To the right of that is the call volume by time period. Underneath that one is the grouping statistics widget. And to the left is call history details. And the last one is the call statistics widgets. So these widgets give you different methods to display your data. So I'll cover them at a high level, but to have some uniformity in these widgets, these 6 examples have all been built around a specific hunt group. So, you're not just limited to building them on a hunt group. You can build them based upon different locations, different users, different, call scenarios. And so I won't get into like a big workshop on hunt group reporting today, although down the road I would love to. So I'll start with the widget in the top left corner called distribution. There's really 2 parts to this widget. You have the wheel, if I can find my mouse here, the wheel here, and then the wheel with the key or the legend on top. And then the second part is the statistics summary bar at the very top of the widget. So when configuring this widget or any of the widgets, it's the same thing as what you're doing with Call Manager, and it's the same thing with every widget really when you're building a widget from scratch. And so if you're building one from scratch, you'll click on the new widget button in the top right corner. From the wizard, you can pick either the application widget or the feature application feature or the call analytics. To get to these 6 widgets, you're going to want to select call analytics. And then your platform, you've got different platforms to choose from depending upon what's configured within your environment. I'm going to click on Webex Calling or the Webex Calling platform. Think of it like what we used to call a cluster. You can have multiple, Webex Calling organizations configured. Ours is called Webex Calling. So From here, you can select one of the 6 different widget types. I'm just going to go ahead and edit these guys because they're already created. So if I edit the call distribution widget, you can see how it's configured. So the basic configuration is all the same for all the widgets. You have under the configuration section here, you have a bunch of different drop downs, or input boxes. So you can assign a title. You can change your organization, different ones with different color themes. And then you have the refresh interval. How often do you want the widget to update the stats? So if it's a widget that's going back, maybe weeks or days, maybe you don't want refreshing every 5 minutes. Maybe you can refresh it every hour instead. And the icon, each widget has in the top left corner an icon. If you want to customize or select a different icon, you can do so from the configuration menu. And then the date format, if it supports the date format. So usually these are the same. A couple of the widgets have a different, like maybe have a different option here, depending upon how it's configured. So with this widget in particular, the main focus of this widget is the search set, and really for all the widgets is the search set. The search set, as same thing if you're building a report. The search set tells the widget what data to pull out of the database. And then once you have that data, this widget will take it and then it'll group it based upon whatever you select back in the configuration menu. So in this case, my widget is I'm looking at the tenants hunt group. I'm also filtering it on the user called party user type. This way, I'm looking at all the calls into the hunt group that go to a user. The purpose of this widget is that as I've configured, I'm looking for all the calls into a hunt group, and then I'm grouping it based upon the name of the person who answered the call. So I want to see the distribution of calls into the hunt group, and to see how many calls are being taken or answered by each agent. So I also have, I'm displaying the end user as the first and last name, and then just the top 10 results. But I mean, really, with this widget, it's extremely flexible. You can select, many different fields or different methods to group your data and to show different distributions. You can show it, based upon names, locations, managers. If you have multiple hunt groups, if you have 10 hunt groups in your organization and you want to take all your calls and show a distribution of which hunt groups are taking the highest amount of calls, you can do so at a much higher level than what this widget is doing right now. And then once you save it, you're ready to go. The final option here on the left hand side is the time period, so you can change the time range. If you want for the current day, the previous day. There's a bunch of different canned options here. Just because in this demo environment, the data only is only a couple days worth of data. I have it set for current previous week, but you can also exclude certain days of the week, certain hours of the day, and then change your time zone. So the call distribution widget is a great way of showing grouping, much like the grouping we have in the reports, but you're taking the grouping instead of just showing counts. You're showing it in a much more colorful interface. The next widget here is the utilization concurrent call activity widget. This widget displays a graph that identifies peak concurrent call volume, or the number of calls happening at the same time. So in the CUCM world, in the Cube world, we see this widget used a lot with gateways or SIP trunks to identify peak call traffic. It helps users determine how many channels or how much bandwidth they require. In this case, I'm using this widget not to show really, gateways or any sort of like call. I mean, it's showing call traffic, but it's not. I'm using it in a way to show how many calls are happening at the same time within my hunt group. So this can help with staffing. Do you have enough agents to meet peak demand? Not only are you identifying what your peak demand is, but you're also showing when it occurs. So peak demand in my hunt group, it's not a super busy hunt group, but on the 12th, the peak number of active concurrent calls was 4. So I know, if I have 30 agents assigned to this hunt group, maybe I have too many. If I have 2 agents, maybe that's too little. So we can identify, here there's a high grouping of calls here. It goes, high as 2 concurrent calls, and then up to 3. And then here's another kind of peak here, and then here in the afternoon, there seems to be some more call activity. At the top, you have all of the different dates. So if you have multiple dates selected within the widget, you can turn on or off the different dates by clicking on the box. So here, if I only want to highlight a certain day or so to make it easier to read, I can do so by clicking, on the box. and then clicking on it, again, we'll turn it back on or off. And that applies for the CUCM and the cube and zoom data as well. If I edit here, there's not much more to change. The search sets are the same idea. You're building out a search set. What I did mention for the call distribution is there are actually 3 ways to create a search set. So here you have the widget option where you're manually building out the search set. You can also take an existing report. So if you have a report that's saved in the reporting section of the software and you want to take the search set from that report and use it in a widget, you can select this option here and then select the report from the list. So if I had a search set that I created in this report here, and I wanted to use it somewhere else. That way, I'm not recreating the same widget over and over and over again. I can select it here from the dropdown. The third option is to select or to use a public search set. So if you use public search sets, or if you haven't used them before, essentially you're taking this search set here, and then you're saving it within the system so that you can use it in reports or you can use it in widgets. So here, if I want to, instead of using this criteria, if I have a pre-configured search set, for the Chicago Hunt Group or for the Memphis office, I can do that instead of having to recreate the same search set over and over again if I'm building out multiple widgets. So here with the configuration, the big thing that's different is you're going to get this data aggregate interval here, which just tells you or tells the software how to what interval to display the concurrency. So default is 10 minutes. If you want it just in a 30-minute interval, you can do so. And the widget also supports the same statistics summary bar here, which if you want to display it, you can go back. And if I edit the widget, you can turn it on here at the bottom. And then from the list on the side, you can select what you want to see. So here can total call count, average duration. We can get into answer call counts and really anything you want to see. We can just toss in some extra ones here. And then when we save it, it'll refresh the widget. And then once it displays, you'll see at the bar here at the top, 94 total calls within this time period or within the current previous week. And then we can see everything here, how it's built out. Okay, moving on. The widget in the top right corner here, this one is pretty straightforward. This is the call volume by time period widget. The way this one works is you have your search set, and the data displayed is always going to show the total call count based on your search set. So if I'm building a search set based upon a hunt group, then the different intervals will show the total calls based on my time period type, whether it's daily, hourly, weekly, or however it's configured. If I open up the search set to be system wide, I want to see all my calls, then it'll show the total the total call count based upon whatever time period type. In this case, I have the hour selected. So if I edit my widget, I'll show how it's configured. Again, configuration, these are all the same. I can change my color or if I want to, but the main thing here is the time period type. So right now I have hour or day selected, but if I wanted to break this data down by date or by day a week or week, month, or smaller intervals such as like quarter hour, half hour of the day, I can do so here. My search sets, same thing. I have I'm looking for my hunt group and I'm looking for calls into the user. I'm also looking at calls that are greater than 0. So I only want the calls that are answered. So they have a duration. Time period, same thing here. I'm only including though 5 to 4 p.m. The reason why is because the hunt group is only active in this time of the day. So if I did all day, and I did go back to hour a day, with this widget, you're going to see a lot of blank space, unless your hunt group or whatever time, whatever you're reporting on is seeing call volume for 24 hours a day. Here, a lot of extra space here. So if I want to get rid of that space, I can just filter the time interval to the time period, which would be, I think if I had it was, I forget, but straight to 4. And then there we go. I think it was like 7. But then we have it for this. We can get rid of a lot of that blank space. Okay, next widget, the grouping statistics widget. This widget, it really what it does is it takes the grouping statistics section out of a report and it turns it into a widget. One of the great things with these widgets you can take a report, like if you receive a lot of reports, like a lot of daily reports for the previous day, you can, instead of waiting until tomorrow to see today's data, you can take your report and turn it into a widget. It's like, for example, this is a hunt pilot or a hunt group widget that I have where I'm looking at all the calls to a hunt group. This is for, let's say, this is for the previous day. I have my search set summary here. I'm showing 83 calls for the previous day. Average duration, total call durations, all that good stuff. The section below is my grouping. So I'm taking the data and I'm grouping it based upon the agent or the user who received the call. In this case, I'm just showing the answered call count. So I can see, Damon has 18 calls, Karen has 15. So instead of waiting until tomorrow to see, what happened today, I can take that grouping section and turn it into a widget. So here's the same widget. I think it's the same search set. I may have configured it differently. Um, but I'm taking that data. I'm grouping it based on the agent. So you have a long list of different values or out of the data that you can group on. In this case, I'm grouping it on the agent. And actually, I used a custom label to reassign the name or to call this the agent instead of called party name. But in this case, I'm sorting it based upon the total call count, highest to lowest. Um, maximum grouping count. I'm showing the top 10 entries. You also set minimum total count or maximum total call count. So if I wanted to exclude people with 0 calls, I can bump up to 1. And then here, we can include the different grouping or the different values in the different columns. So here I have presented and answered. I'm using custom labels, so if I hover over it, I can see presented is actually the default label for presented is total call count. The default label for answered is answered call count. So I just changed that in the widget. But you can select from anything here in the list. And again, if you want to add a statistic summary bar, you can, but you can turn it on here. So this widget here, essentially, I'm showing answered should at the time this report ran should be the same call count. I ran this report I think like an hour ago. So here, Damon has 18 answered calls. I think he has 19. Oh, he's 18 here too. So, instead of waiting to see this report, or if you run this report, throughout the day, instead of waiting to see this information, you can always look at it whenever you want to by just, keeping it in a widget. So this widget is great if you want to get away from the report and see the data more, current or more live. And also, I guess worth pointing out, coming up in 15.1, if you haven't seen it in one of our previous webinars, we have horizontal spacing. It will be out in 15.1. So if you want to change the space of your column size, you'll be able to do that also in 15.1. So yeah, next widget is the call history details. Again, pretty straightforward. You're just taking the last, X number of call records and you're showing the details. So this is great in this case for this hunt group. I'm showing like the last 5 calls that came to the hunt group. But if you want to, you can show like the last 5 abandoned calls, the last 10 calls, however you want to show the detailed data. If you want to see it again without having to run a report that shows you the detail section, which I don't have turned on this report. But if you want to see, the detail section or the detail call details without running a report, you can build this widget out. The configuration section is pretty much the same, or it starts off the same, title, widget type, the color, the refresh interval. But then you can get into, the display count. So how many records do you want to show? Here I'm showing the last 5. I can bump it up to the last 10 if I want to see more data. And then you're just like the detail section in a report, you can select the columns you want to see. In my widget, I'm keeping it simple, so I want to see the last, in this case now, the last 10 answered calls. So I'm including answer time, the calling party number to show the caller ID, the called party name to show which agent answered the call, and the call duration, how long was the agent on the call for. So I can see, within the last X number of minutes based upon the call volume and the last, how many were queried, I can see what calls my agents have been taking. So you can expand it farther if you want to see more data, but the farther out you go, the more data you'll have to scroll through. So I can see the last 10 calls into my hunt group. And then the final widget is the call statistics widget. So this widget, much like how the grouping widget is taking the grouping section of the report And the call history detail section is taking the details out of the report and turning it into a widget. The call stats widget is taking, go back up, the call or the search criteria summary. It's taking this summary out of the widget or out of the report and turning it into a widget. So here if I edit my widget here, I'm just showing, based on my search set, I'm just showing counts and averages for my hunt group, and I'm looking for all the calls at the hunt group level, not at the user level. So I want to see how many calls, or I'm looking for just calls to the hunt group. So here under the configuration section, again, the same drop downs. You can change the icon, the color, the refresh interval. But yeah, from here I'm just taking after I build up my search set and select my time period, I'm selecting different statistic types from the list. So right now I'm showing answer call count, answer call percentage. But if I wanted just to replicate this, answer call count, total average call duration will be here. We can get average call duration here, and then total call duration here. So if I wanted to take this report, or if I wanted, and turn it into a widget where I can see, today's stats today, I can just save this, and the stats will show up right here. So now it's going to refresh. Here's my stats. Instead of having to run a report or have to jump, log in, run a report, wait for it to be delivered, or wait until tomorrow to see the report, I can see these stats, as live as possible. And you can create multiple widgets. I see this widget used a lot where we have a user that just selects one option or one value, and then it draws your eyes to this value. Simply, hey, what's my answer call count? It's an important metric. I can see it here in the widget. There's 91 calls answered, answered for the current previous week. So, and yeah, I mean, from there, you're not just limited to building out the widgets on hunt groups. You can, use different search sets to modify or to customize the data that's being pulled into these widgets. And so I guess here, I'll pause here. Ray, will kick it back to you for some Q&A.
Well, thank you, Mike. But I want to apologize to everyone. It looks like the Q&A and the chat panels have been grayed out for everybody. So there might not be too many questions. So I want to apologize to everybody. If you do have any specific questions regarding this, please don't hesitate. Shoot us an email, support@variphy.com. It's going to open up a ticket for you, and we can get the questions answered for you. So I want to apologize to everybody.
Well, that keeps it easier for me then.
It kind of does, yeah. Well, if that's all you have, Mike, I guess we can move on.
That is all I have.
All
Just
right.
kind of cut it off. We have for anyone who's going to ask who didn't catch the beginning of the webinar, these widgets will be available in 15.1, and that will be available next week.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Awesome job, man.
Thank you.
Grab this guy again. Share. Da, 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 da. Boom. Boom. All right. All right. We're back. All right. Thanks, Mike. Once again, we are now going to pick our gift card winner. Give me 1 second. Right. All right. And this week's winner is Rafael Choya. Congratulations. Your account manager will be reaching out soon, and we'll get you that gift card over. Thank you, everybody, so much. Don't forget, next week, we do have the Verify 15.1 call scenarios as search types workshop going on next week, June 28th, same time. We're going to be Trey and Victor on that one. So don't miss this one. It's going to be really, really good one. So hope to see you all there. Once again, everybody, thank you so much for attending our webinar today.
Bye, everyone.